see we live. What's going on, everybody, man? I'm about to start a few minutes early so that I can get these links posted earlier this time, and then we can get right back. We can get right into the topics at hand. Okay, so let me just go ahead and post these real quick, and let's get right into it. Because this video's the live's gonna be up, so if anybody want to come join in, they can always tap in later and watch this. Because we're gonna be sharing a lot of game in this live stream, a lot of topics. So let's get it started off right. All right. Just adding the link. Yeah, I gotta find a more productive way of doing this. I don't know. If you see this live now or you see this later, you got a more productive way of doing this. You let me know, man, because I have not figured it out yet. I have not figured it out yet. So if you have a productive way of doing this, let me know, man. Because I go one by one, get to doing it, get to doing it, get to doing it. You know what I mean? So let me just go ahead and do it one more time. Alright, I got somebody in here. Yo, and then once y'all join up, man, go ahead and say something in the chat. If not, you can just go ahead and watch. We go get right into these topics here in a couple of moments. I just want to get these posted up so if anybody comes across, they can join up. What up, Ma? How you doing? How are ya? How are ya? All right. Post this one last time, man. I'm just gonna get right into it because I don't want to stick around all day. They said we already over here. Yup. Perfect. All right. Just getting these posts out on my socials real quick, and then I'm just gonna get right into the live because I got a pretty lengthy agenda today on the things that we're going to be talking about and discussing on this chapter of Live Talks with the Trader Boys. You know what I mean? So I want to do this. I don't want to be delaying it too long. Nonetheless, we're going to get right into it. All right, perfect. So I got everything from the looks of it posted up. Let me double check real quick. Yeah, I need to find a more productive way of posting all this. For sure. Okay. Here we are. All right, cool. So, as you may have seen from the title, and to my viewers that's live, appreciate y'all for tuning in, and for the viewers that came back and watched this video after it was posted, appreciate y'all for tapping in as well. But from the title of the video, we're going to be talking about numerous of things today, mostly revolving around the Clarity Act, as that's the new big thing going around in the crypto realm and investing realm. As far as why did the Clarity Act fail, what even is the Clarity Act, and how does the Clarity Act impact regulation moving forward. So we'll talk about that, and then I'll do some chart work too. I have not done my chart work for this upcoming trading week because I felt led to just go ahead and do it on the live stream and put it out there on how I set up my charts for the week. Then I'm ready to start trading, and then we'll talk about that. We'll do a little chart work, and then I'll also talk about. I think that's gonna be it for today, and we'll do some Jesus talk as well throughout this as well. So Before we get right into the Clarity Act, though, I want to pull up these crypto charts because for one reason specifically is, let me put that over there. But yeah, so one reason specifically is this last candle right before I started the live, we just started going down. You know what I mean? The market started coming down. As you see, we were up at this. This was the yesterday candle. I don't know if you guys could see the date on here. Let me move up so we can see the date. Perfect. So we can see the date now. Okay. And this candle right here from Sunday was up at 95,000, and then towards the end of the day, it just kind of started sliding down to 93K, and now we're at 92K testing that EMA. And as you look, we'll go through all of these crypto charts. You see XRP just smacked off liquidity's box right here. Came down, same thing. All of them going to be the same. The end of Sunday started going down. And then now this Monday candle that's starting, because remember the crypto market starts 4 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, 7 o'clock Eastern time. And it came down straight into liquidity, and now it pushed back up, okay? And the same thing, even ZBCN's down, testing this liquidity box that it finally had claimed just a few days ago over the rush. ALGOs in this liquidity. We got H-bar trying to go back to a sweep zone down here. Could be a potential great buy zone, but it's under liquidity as well, under the first liquidity. And XDC is actually in the perfect buy zone right now. I might even load up some more shares on my tokens of XDC because it's all the way at its original floor right now. So, and you see I have that marked as perfect buy zone. So this is like the lowest price you'd be able to buy this token at. And I guess we got the ultimate buy zone, but it hasn't hit this XDC original floor since 2024. So we're there right now, and we got XLM. XLM's under the buy zone as well, as we see. You know, it's just coming down. Everything's in buy zone. You know, so my portfolio is looking cooked right now because my price, the amount of money I have in there is going down, but it don't matter because now it's just time to buy more. Okay, and then we have the coin market. Top 20 index fund, the DTF, so the decentralized token fund. So then we look right here, and we're coming down too. We're up at 205, 206. We're coming down to 194 because this reflects the top 20 tokens in the market. So it all makes sense, and it's stemming from the Clarity Act, exactly what we're going to get into. So first thing first, we're just going to talk about what the Clarity Act even is, just to open up. And the Clarity Act is basically just an act and some laws to have some clear guidance and regulation on the crypto realm and digital assets and decentralized finance moving forward, because there's not much rules when it comes to this. It's just an open playground. Anything can happen right now. So in order for institutions to get on board, big banks, big holders, the people that really would move this market and turn this up a notch, you know what I mean? They need this act to pass in order to start implementing things, because no big banks and no big institution are going to implement these things seriously without some regulation and some guidance from our lawmakers, aka Congress and the House. Okay, so that's what the Clarity Act is. Last year we had the Genius Act passed, which was a little bit looser than the Clarity Act, but the Clarity Act actually is going to provide clarity. Hint the Clarity Act, right? So we were supposed to be getting the Clarity Act passed over this past weekend. So today's the January 18th. We're supposed to be getting the Clarity Act passed, I believe, the 15th. So we're going to be having Congress do a vote. But then once the Clarity Act was discovered, and not just by Congress, by some big owners of, like, you know, CEOs of the banks of these financial world, so like Coinbase banks and the banks institutions, they were all involved. Once they were able to see what this bill was containing, one of the pro-crypto influencers pulled out of the bill. So the CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, he pulled his support from the bill, which, you know, it's not like Coinbase is some sort of small company or some small, you know, business that doesn't have much say-so in what's going on. You know, they're like the front runners of when it comes to, like, you know, the storage of digital assets. So as far as, you know, crypto tokens, they were one of the first ones around. They're actually, you know, a public traded company, so they have their stock. They're in the stock market. I think they had their IPO in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2022. But they're a publicly traded company, so, you know, they're kind of like a good representation of, you know, the crypto market as a whole. And, you know, the things that they uncovered in this bill, according to the CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, we'll refer to him as Brian, what Brian was basically saying was, the banks are still trying to be in control of this. They're pretty much trying to put their imprint on this because they're scared of the competition for stable coins. Okay. And shortly after that, the CEO of Bank of America came out and said, hey, stable coins put us banks at risk to losing $6 trillion a year in terms of deposits, because they make a lot of their money in the deposits and us putting our money into their banks and holding it for us. Okay. Which we'll get into all of that. We're going to talk about the system that the banks use as far as us and how they leverage us into it, and how these banks even become institutions. And we'll start unfolding, we'll start layering this out on why this is such a big deal, and why this act being delayed doesn't necessarily mean that there's no clarity being found, but it just means that in order for this bill to pass, things in the bill needs to change. Okay. So as we're going to go away from the charts for a minute, we'll come back to that. Okay. And this is actually the bill right here, okay? This is when the House had it back in 2025, when the House passed it to make it go to Congress, okay? And as we see, this bill is long. I mean, I started reading it, but I did not finish reading this, okay? I did not read every single word of this, but I still have done the research, and I'm up to date. I'm up to speed on what exactly is going on here. And most importantly, we know why Brian Armstrong is pulling support from this bill, okay? And that's the most important part. So the reasons why, before we even get into the reasons of why he's pulling it, let's talk about the banks and how they make their money, okay? So first thing first, we just talked about the CEO of Bank of America talking about, stable coins put us at risk to lose $6 trillion a year in deposits. That's $6 trillion is a lot of bread, you know what I mean? Like, to an average Joe like me, and maybe like to the average viewer watching, $6 trillion, $6 trillion, I'm cool for life. Like, you know what I mean? So they're talking about we're going to lose $6 trillion due to stable coins. So banks are, according to Brian Armstrong, banks are afraid of this competition. And he just thinks like, hey, like, we're not saying we're trying to take over, but like, we're just trying to make an equal level playing field of everyone has a chance in these markets, including the consumers, us. You know what I mean? Like, banks don't have to gatekeep all the money. Banks don't have to make all these systems in place to where, it impacts us and is diminishing us. There's a way for the common investor to earn yield on their money sitting there, instead of you collecting their money, spending it how you want to spend it, and doing what you want to do with it. This is the whole point of the crypto market being created back in 08, back in 09, when Bitcoin first came out, right? Like, blockchains were always a thing, was always something that we knew we could get to one day once we found the internet out. But Bitcoin was kind of that answer, like, hey, we need to put a stop to the bank system. So before we even talk about this act all the way, we need to talk about the bank system that these crypto innovators are desperately trying to put an end to. And it starts with the deposits and the loans, okay? So banks use the deposits to lend it back to us, basically. So if I have $10,000 and I'm banking with Chase, I put my $10,000 in Chase. You already know you get tax overdraft fees, you get tax maintenance fees. But on top of that, when you have $10,000 in there and you look on your bank account, if you're watching this video, I want you to go look at your bank account right now. It don't matter what's in there. None of that matters, okay? But I want you to go look at your bank account, and then I want you to understand that money is not really there, okay? When you go load up your bank account, whether you say 10,000, whether it says 5,000, whether it says 100, whether it says 20, okay? That money's not literally there. It is just a way for you to think and feel comfortable. It's more of an IOU, a promise, okay? Because when you put your money into a bank, they're holding it for you, okay? They're holding the money for you, meaning you're now putting your money into our system. So now we could do whatever we want to with your money, okay? We pay interest on our own money. Like, you get paid from work, and it goes to your bank account, and you're paying interest on that, okay? And what they do with the money that gets deposited from your account to that bank, you know what I mean? They're using it out for loans. So you go try to get a mortgage loan. That's money that's sitting in people's accounts, and banks are just using it. So you see the balance. Nah, your money is getting loaned out somewhere. They use it for car loans. So when you go to the dealership and you put $2,000 down, the money that's being loaned to you is coming from deposits in people's accounts. So if everyone in this live, we have a few viewers here, all of us together have $20,000, okay? They're taking that money and they're using that out. They're lending that out for mortgage rates, for car loans, for all that stuff. They're loaning our money out, okay? So when banks are doing that, they're using it to make money, to lend money. That's just the first step of it, but they're also using it to make money, okay? We'll get into that next, to make money. So they're using that money to invest, to be institutions. Why do you think when we talk about the markets and we look at charts, right? We're talking about hunting liquidity, right? So let's go ahead. Let's just pull up any chart. Okay, I got Tesla right here. I already mapped out. So when we're talking about looking at these resistances, we're just looking basically at where are these banks buying? Why are we looking at where banks are buying? Because they have all the money. Why do banks have the money? Because we give them our money. The banks have all the money because it's our money. So a lot of people will get paid with money and be like, hey, I don't feel safe investing my money because the market conditions, I'm going to just keep it in my bank account with Chase or with Bank of America or with Wells Fargo because I don't want to invest. But guess what they doing? They're investing your money. They're literally investing it. They're buying safe assets, quote unquote safe assets. Safe assets is something that, is guaranteed to go up basically. So bonds, safe stocks, ETFs, and they trade. They're at trading desks with your money. So you're like, okay, I just got paid a $1,500 check, but I'm too nervous to invest my money. So I'm just going to sit it in my bank account until I want to spend it. And the banks is like, perfect. The more money you got just sitting in your bank account, that's more money we got to do whale activities. So then when it's people that's investing and trading, when we're hunting liquidity, when we're watching price action, when we're noticing where price is going up because buyers step in, those buyers ain't everyday people like us. The buyers are the banks that are using our money. Okay? They use our money to strengthen their balance sheets, which is legal. This is not illegal work. And if we don't understand that the bank works like that, this is what they do. This is what they've always done. I've done like research on the history of the stock market, and this is what it's been from the jump. Before the SEC came around, when FDR got in office, it was uglier than what it is now. You know what I mean? Like when the Great Depression happened, anytime the markets would crash, J.P. Morgan, the actual J.P. Morgan, John Pierpont Morgan, he would get all the bankers together and be like, hey, we're about to put all our money together, so everybody lend some money out, and let's flood the markets so people could start investing again. They were pretty much manipulating the market literally one-on-one. This was manipulation one-on-one. We about to load up 10 million into the markets so that price goes up and the sentiment of the everyday people goes higher. If price is going down, they're going to be nervous. We're not making money. You know what I mean? This is something that was always a thing for them. All right, so banks invest our money too, and that's where it's like we need to shift our mindset. Like, invest is a risk, invest is not good, invest is bad, because if you're sitting your money in the bank, it's getting invested either way, and it's not getting invested for you. Okay, it's not getting invested for you. That's why I try to limit how much money I have in the bank. The money that should be in your bank account is just spending money, like money that's gonna go. Like, okay, you pay your bills. You put money up for your ties. You put money up for your savings. When the high yield savings, that's going to grow in value over time, okay? And then you put your money in some investments. And then you got probably $200 to live with until you get paid again. That $200, that way, the bank's going to have that. You know what I mean? If you have your life savings in the bank account and you pull up one day because I need to go get my 50K, you're cooked, because if you walk into the Chase around the corner from your house looking for 50,000, they gonna tell you we don't even got that much here. We don't carry more than 10K. I promise you they will. I guarantee you they will. They'll tell you we don't have that. We don't have $50,000 in here. There's not $50,000 in those ATMs that you drive by at night, that you do the drive-through ATM. There's not $50,000 in there. Okay. So that's why it's important that we start understanding these things to shift our mindset on what investing is, because the banks are going to invest for us if we don't do it. And it's not for us. They're investing our money for them. Okay, so that's one way that they move. And then kind of what we just talked about, smart money advantages. Okay, controlling liquidity. Okay, bringing price down. They're the whales. When you have the most money in the markets, your money moves the markets. So that's why it's like, when you look at these companies, right, like Tesla, like Apple, like Microsoft, who's their majority shareholders? It's not really everyday people. It's these banks and it's hedge funds. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's why these hedge funds make a lot of money, because they invest other people's money, which we understand that. We understand how hedge funds work, and people put their trust in hedge funds because they have researchers that actually study the markets, pay attention, knows the news, studies the quarterly earnings, study reports, study everything that you need to know that you might be too busy to do. So you give them your money to do it for you in your account. At the end of the day, all that money is still under their roof. So if you come into a hedge fund with your money's under that roof. So that's technically their money that they're investing for you. So they are the majority shareholders because they are investing all these people's money, billions and trillions of dollars of money in these markets, so they could buy up the most shares. Banks the same way, except we don't acknowledge that we want them to invest for us. They finesse us in our thinking, like, okay, store your money here. We'll show you the balance you have, but you don't really have that, because if you pull up trying to take that out, you know what I mean, in liquid, you're going to be pretty much cooked. You could transfer it, you know what I mean, but once you get the overdraft fees, that's another spot we could talk about too, the overdraft fees. That's another way they make more money. Maintenance fees, they make more money through that, you know what I mean? So this is just a system built for them to win, the banks. This is how everyone sees it. This is how our tokenization and crypto realm was founded, on these things. You know what I mean? Every step of the way is built for them to make more money, especially with the deposits. Like the deposits, the craziest one to me, I mean, it's probably two crazy ones to me, that they invest the money. Once I started investing, it didn't get as crazy. The craziest one is the deposit. When we deposit our money, they use that money to loan it to us. Like, what are we talking about? The money I've made, you're about to loan it back to me? The money I've made, you're going to loan it back to me. That's what the bank's doing. The banks are like, okay, cool. You made this money. You decided to bank with us and store your money with us. And now you want a credit card? Cool. That money that you got stored in our bank, we're going to loan that back to you. And then this is what the craziest thing is. So now that we're on this whole credit card journey, the craziest part about credit cards is, one, you spend the money, right? So first they give you a limit. They give you a limit on how much you can spend based on your credit score, right? Then once you got a limit, they like, yeah, spend your credit, build your credit by spending. The more you spend your credit utilization brings your card down, brings your score down. You know what I mean? And of course, there's workarounds, there's ways to build credit, there's smart ways to build credit. You can strategically build credit. But why am I strategically building credit when I'm getting loaned the money that's in our bank accounts? Like, it's our money being brought back to us in a cycle. The banks is in straight rinse and repeat mode, bro. Straight rinse and repeat mode. And it's a crazy thing to see and even to try to fathom and think about, right? So as we start going down this Clarity Act and we start looking at the red flags in this that the CEO of Coinbase had brought to our attention, we're going to be like, hey, you know what I mean? Let's see if this benefits me or not. I want you to keep that in mind. What is beneficial to me? What is going to help me earn money? What is going to help me maximize my investment, okay? Because the reason why we want to do that is because in the long haul, in the long term of things, you got to understand the system that you're in. I use this reference all the time. No one's going to go want to invest in something they know nothing about, okay? Unless you trust the source that told you that much. But when it comes to money, that's rare. Okay, no one's going to invest in something they know nothing about. If you know nothing about the stock market, you're not going to put your money there, because at the bare minimum, you know the stock market moves price. So you're like, I'm not putting no money there. Okay, it's just like this. The reference that I always use is that a lot of people don't like to try new food because they don't want to spend their own money on something they might not like. I'm like that too. Like I don't really eat different things. Like I got probably 4 things in my go-to when I do go eat out. But a lot of people won't try new food because the risk of not liking it. And now I just wasted my money on something I don't like. Okay? So it's important that we educate ourselves on this and we find out what really is it that we're investing in. A lot of people don't even, we were born into the banking system just being norm. Like, for instance, myself, I had a bank account right through my mom as soon as I got to high school. Once I started working at Little Caesars at 16, I got a nice little high school checking banking account with Chase. I I didn't ask no questions on how that worked. I just thought the money, they just keep the money there and I just come get it. You know, I didn't think too much of it. I was 16. I wasn't worried about interest and deposits and loans and yield and fractional reserve. I wasn't thinking of, what? Come on now. And now when we get to that age, it's like, okay, cool. We'll be stuck in that forever. We'll get a bank at 14, 13, 16. And then we'll never go back to do the research on how these banks move, how they make money. Why do we even put our money in banks? Why do we won't never question it, because it's something that was normalized and something that we grew up with, and especially if our parents put us on. We won't question something that our parents trust, okay? We won't question anything that our parents trust. If our parents recommend this for us, if our parents force us to get a bank account, if our parents tell us to go do this, we won't question it. We'll be like, okay, cool. Like, Mom Dukes use this, Pops use this. Cool, it got to be the right thing. No questions asked. Let me go ahead and do that, all right? That's why it's important that we learn to invest so that we as parents teach our kids the normality of investing. Like, this is bigger than just even us. This is like, we got to pass these seeds down from generation to generation to normalize investing. Okay. So now as we get into that, okay, I got some notes here. So I want to get right into why he pulled out of the bill, okay? And there's three main points, okay? There's three main points on why they pulled out of this act. And one of them is the yield on stablecoins. So the yield on stablecoins is something that's big. This is what works in our favor, okay? So we could earn interest and we could earn reserves back on and rewards back on us holding stablecoin and purchasing stablecoin, okay? It's 3 to 10% interest. Banks is 0 to 1. You're literally lucky. You're literally lucky if you get 1% of interest rate back on your brand. You're lucky if you do, okay? That's true. Teach your children. Yes, Ma. Teach the children. That's important because they're going to be the ones that carry it on. We got to normalize it. We got to switch our ways of thinking, okay? But yeah, so the yield on stablecoins was the first one. And yield on stablecoins is the biggest thing. This is why banks are truly nervous. Because now, if we could all make our own money, and this is the thing, there's no middleman. So you put your money in stablecoin, there's nobody that's going to take that money out and go use it and do that. That money is for you. And you can earn rewards to you for holding stablecoin. Okay, so in that act, they were trying to remove that. They were trying to say, hey, no more yield on stablecoins. We're not doing that, okay? You can't have no yield on stablecoins, basically. They were trying to limit that to the lowest, okay? And that's basically just giving banks control over that. And then they were also trying to make it to where banks could also have say-so over what stablecoins are being used. They could deny stablecoins for their clients, okay? Not letting it be fair game. Okay, they're trying to outlaw the whole advantage that we as everyday people would have with stablecoins. Okay, and you got to keep this in mind as the markets grow. Not everyone's gonna like stablecoin. Not everyone's gonna change. Not everyone's gonna do that. But I'm gonna tell you this: banks, regardless, because now we see that this didn't pass. Thankfully, so. Banks are going to start forming their own stablecoins. JP Morgan is a prime example. Chase, they're already making a stablecoin. It's called Onyx. They're doing it on their own blockchain. They're creating their own stablecoin. It's going to be exclusive for Chase holders. So when this all rolls out, if you have Chase, like, it won't change nothing. It'll be normalized to you. Okay, and they'll probably, since it's going to be private, they won't have to operate in the same realm as, you know, these other stablecoins that are giving us the yield. They'll probably still finesse. Like knowing how the banks know, they'll probably still finesse. They'll be like, okay, yeah, this Onyx stablecoin, you're not earning no interest back. That interest goes to the bank, or you can earn some interest back, but that interest you earning back is gonna be a split with us for you holding with us. It's gonna be some sort of something going on, okay? Because the banks do not want to lose control of all the money they're bringing in from us banking with them, from deposits, okay? That is the key factor here. So yield on stablecoins was the first big one, okay? And then they were trying to ban tokenized equities, okay? So they were trying to ban tokenized stocks and being able to tokenize traditional finance. So tokenized bonds, tokenized ETFs, tokenized all that sort of stuff. They were like, yeah, no. We're not tokenizing the markets, okay? We're not tokenizing the markets. And why do you think they don't want us to tokenize the markets? Because if the markets is tokenized and always to be traded, more people could get more shares, build up more money, and buy more. Who's the whales of these stock markets? The banks. Okay? They don't want to lose their control. They don't want to lose majority holder of what they hold. Which, okay, it makes sense, I suppose, when you think of it, when you have empathy for what the banks are thinking. You know what I mean? It makes everything the banks are saying makes sense for the banks. Like, yeah, I understand. But I don't understand because I ain't the bank. I'm trying to make some money too. Like, get me out the cycle. Literally, get me out the cycle, okay? Get me out the cycle. And then last, the third thing was broad restrictions on DeFi, so decentralized finance, okay? They weren't trying to ban DeFi. That's something that I see going around a lot on social media. That like, oh, they were trying to ban DeFi. No. They weren't in banning DeFi. They were restricting DeFi though. So cold wallets, for instance, they were trying to basically get access to cold wallets. Okay, they weren't gonna ban cold wallets, but they were gonna be like, hey, like, we should still be able. Someone has to be responsible for the DeFi scene. We can't just let people do whatever they want to, own what they want to, without somebody knowing what's going on, and they want to be the ones knowing what's going on. Okay, so when you put it in this perspective, when we have those three things, we got the restrictions on DeFi, and then we got this yield on stable coins, and we got what was the third one? We got the ban on tokenized equities, on traditional finance, the tokenization of traditional finance. These are three things that are the pillar. This is literally the pillar of what blockchains, crypto, and tokenization is trying to achieve. And the banks are pretty much putting their imprint on the Clarity Act to regulate this under their thumb, to manipulate how things are going to be held so that they could still have majority power in this realm, okay? Remember, this system was designed to take that power away from these banks in the first place. That's where this came from. That's why it's been almost 20 years. We're approaching 20 years here in about 2 more years of when Bitcoin was founded. And the banks knew about it. The banks know. They know what's going on. And they don't want this to really go on. And now they realize it's going to have to go on. Like, if we're sitting here in Congress drafting up this bill on regulation for this space, then we need to do everything we can to limit this. Because the days of making this not happen is gone. Because it's going to happen now regardless. But this is our last chance to limit how it happens. Okay? And the Coinbase CEO, you got to think. So, like, think of, like, how strong-willed as a person you have to be to stand up in Congress, not as even a lawmaker, but as a CEO of a company that is going involved in crypto to say, no, I'm pulling my support. And from what I've seen, he was the only one that did that. He read this and was like, this is not good. This is not for the betterment of the space. Okay? He had all of our best interests in mind. How many people can you think back to that sit in those sort of rooms with the lawmakers and drafting these bills and these acts have really truly in their hearts have our best interest in mind at all times? Like, yeah, things will be centered around our best interest, but always there's some sort of loophole for everyone else, even all these taxes. We could do another stream on taxes because I've been studying taxes recently, and man, taxes for the everyday people like you and me, we're cooked. Like, we have no hope, okay? But there are plenty of loopholes for taxes when it comes for the rich, okay? And Donald Trump says it all the time. He knows the loopholes. He literally knows them because he was a businessman that used them his whole life. So our president of the United States acknowledges that there's tax loopholes. So when these lawmakers are sitting in these rooms, they do not always have our best interests at heart. Okay? So for him to stand up like that, I don't care what anyone's saying right now. I don't get into all that other nonsense. I don't care. There takes a lot of heart, a lot of courage, and a lot of, just character to stand up in a room like that and be like, no, I'm pulling my support until we get things right. And it's not like this slowdown is the end of the bill. Like, there's going to be no Clarity Act. Crypto's cooked. That's not the case. Now, there might be a longer resolution to all of this with everything going on, but that doesn't mean crypto's cooked. That just means we need to revisit these topics on this bill because this ain't right. You know what I mean? This ain't right for the space of crypto as a whole, especially for the consumers like us. Like, they're trying to take our yield on stablecoins. That I've got some rewards holding stable coins because every time. So let me tell you how like the flow of investing in crypto works. This is the best way to do it. Okay, so if you get paid, you got some money and you want to start investing into crypto. Of course, we want to wait for the best price to buy. So you want to sit your money in stable coin. So you want to upload your money into the stable coin. Because remember, we just talked about all the things that the banks do and how they are. So you don't want to just hold your money in the bank, because they're going to leverage your money. They're going to use your money. They're going to go invest your money. They're going to loan your money. We know all the things that the banks are going to do with our money when it's sitting there, legally too. This is legally and structurally. Most important, forget legally. This is structured to be like that, okay? This is the structure of the banking system. We know how they're going to use our money. So that's why you put your money into stablecoin and you wait for a price to go to where it's going to go, and you just buy straight from stablecoin, okay? And the best part of that is that when it's tokens like XRP that has 3 to 5 seconds transaction rate, you know, they're moving like this. Think about all the fees you have to pay. Now we're back to banks. Think about all the fees you have to pay. If you wire someone bread, fees. All the time you got to wait due to ACH batching. Okay, just another way for banks to make more money. We're talking about the whole payroll system. That's a whole nother conversation for another time. We won't dive too deep into that right now. But think about that too, okay? Think about all the money you spend sending money. Think about all the money you spend receiving money. Okay? If I cash out you $100 right now, you gonna probably call me back like, hey, yo, Trey, send me $3 more, fool. Like, I can only get 97. I can only get 96 unless I wait 3 to 5 days. You want to know why that happened? So with Cash App, I cash up you 100. You can't take out, if you do it instantly, it's probably about 97, 96. The reason why is because that balance I just sent you is not in your Cash App for real. So when you instantly do it, you're taking that $100 being deposited to your bank account is coming from Cash App's reserve, the company Cash App's reserve. They're giving you the money. They're letting you borrow that money. And that's why they say if you wait 1 to 3 business days, the money will actually clear from that bank that it was sent to the Cash App bank. It'll clear and you could have the whole 100. Okay, but if you do it instantly, then you're basically asking us to give you the $100 now, and we take the $100 when it's actually cleared in the 1 to 3 business days. So for that happening, we gotta tax you a fee. We gotta tax you a fee before that. We gotta fee you. We're not doing that for the free ski. Okay, so that's how those sort of fees work. So then you look at all of that stuff, putting your money in the stable coins. Not only do we erase all those fees, it's the middleman that's missing. It's the middleman. The middleman is missing. Okay, there's no middleman. So if you send me bread through stablecoin, I said you send me 100 through stablecoin, it's straight to me. There's no middleman. It's from stablecoin to stablecoin. There's no middleman in there. Okay, it's straight. Just, you feel me? And then when you sitting there, there's nobody leveraging your $100 in the stablecoin. You're earning money for sitting it in the stablecoin, okay? USDC, Circle's paying you money to buy their stablecoin. Why? Because the stablecoin is tokens, just like any sort of digital asset, raw crypto. It's tokens. So for you to even buy our tokens, like, you're getting rewarded for placing your trust in us. Like, okay, USDC is the bank Circle. That's their stablecoin. They're like, we're going to give you incentives based on the more money you put in our stablecoin. There's banks, PayPal has a stable coin. The more money you put into our stable coin, we're going to give you rewards. We're going to give you incentives to make our stable coin more valued, okay? So let's pull up, we're going to pull up this crypto chart right here, okay? This is CoinMarketCap. This is CoinMarketCap right here, okay? What CoinMarketCap is, here, let me unlock that real fast so I can move this, I can move my screen real quick, okay? All right, so what CoinMarketCap basically is, it shows us how the top cryptos, okay? It shows us all the top cryptos out, okay? So when we're looking at this, we're gonna look at these stable coins. We're not too worried about. We're not gonna worry about this raw crypto right now, okay? And remember, if I'm going too fast, you got questions, you got comments, you got concerns, always feel free to comment anything you got your mind on, okay? So right here, Tether. This is the most valuable stable coin in the world. The Tether Bank, okay? Tether was the first one to really have a stable coin. That's why they're most valued, okay? So their market cap is 186, okay? So that means $186 billion is sitting in their stablecoin, okay? That makes them the most valuable stablecoin. So now let's go down to USDC. This is the stablecoin I personally use, okay? So like when I load up money into the crypto market, I use USDC. There's something about Circle that sits right with my spirit that I mess with. So this is where I go, okay? Their market cap is 75 billion, almost at 76 billion. So that means $75 billion is sitting in a stable coin, okay? Let's find another stable coin, okay? And then it just continues like that. So I'm going to see where PayPal is. PayPal right here, PayPal USD. They got $3 billion. They got $3 billion, okay, worth of stable coin right there. So that means $3 billion is sitting in their stablecoin. So how do we get more people to buy our stablecoin, sit their money in our stablecoin, respect our stablecoin, rewards and yield? Instead of us taking the yield, we're going to gift it back to the people that put their money in the stablecoins. The banks don't do that. The banks like, okay, cool, you're going to put your money in the banks, duh, because that's how we design the system. So now we don't even got to think about paying people, ain't even in the mindset. You know what I mean? It's like, cool, with this always been the system. It's normalized. They already know what it is. So now we just leverage them behind their backs. Now, oh, you just apply for that car loan? Cool. Let me go use that deposit money that I could have gave you back with yield. But why would I do such a thing? Why would I loosen my pockets? I could have gave you that back, but let me go double down and buy this dip of Apple for my shares. Let me go move the markets, okay? That's the difference between banks and stablecoins, and that's why the CEO of Coinbase says that they feel so threatened, okay? Because they feel so threatened. And long story short though, it's always two sides of the story, because the other side of the story will tell you this: on the money sitting in the stablecoin too, the exchanges, okay? So Coinbase, for instance, these exchanges make money based on us buying these coins, okay? So all these coins we see right here, you buy these coins on exchanges. So Coinbase is an exchange. Coinbase, the biggest exchange. That's why they were in those meetings having some say-so, having some motion when it came to this act, because they're one of the biggest ones. Okay, so they make a percentage of, us buying stable coins, us buying Bitcoin, us buying XRP on their chains, okay? They make money on that. So a lot of people are trying to paint that narrative of like, hey, Brian Armstrong, you're just trying to protect your gains. You're just trying to protect what y'all building. You don't really care about us. You only care about, the money staying on Coinbase. That's why you so obsessed with stablecoins, because you want the money to stay on Coinbase and on other exchanges like Coinbase, Crypto.com, Binance, Uphold, okay? These other exchanges that are for, buying tokens and buying stablecoin, okay? When there's always two sides of a story. There's always two sides of the story, and people are going to paint the picture that they want to paint, but everything that he's saying is facts. Like, it's not like Brian Armstrong's the only person that ever said the way the banks move needs to change. He's not the one that created Bitcoin. He's not the one that created crypto. He's the one that seen the realm and became the CEO of an exchange to buy it. That's a smart move to make as a businessman for sure, but it's not necessarily him lining his own pockets like it is with the banks. The banks are literally lining their own pockets. They're literally the whales. They literally control the markets. They control liquidity. They control volume. And for some reason, people still are backing these banks. Because, actually, I know there's some reason. The reason is because they don't know all the things we just talked about. They don't know that the deposits we put to the banks is what they loan our money out with us. People don't understand that. And I ain't gonna lie, I was the same way. I did not understand. And honestly, if I never went down this investor road, I never would have probably understood. I wouldn't have cared. I would have just kept on accumulating my checks, keeping them in my Chase, stacking my Chase, making a savings account with Chase. Like, you're making a savings account with the bank, they still gonna leverage that too. Unless you got the high yield savings. Okay? And interest rates on them get cut every time Chairman Powell getting up there. Okay, so the money in the high yield savings is good too. That's the best way to save. High yield savings is the best way to save outside of investing. Okay, if you want to be like, okay, I don't want no volatility. I can't do with the volatility. Then high yield savings is the best way to save, because at least you can earn interest back on the money you put in there every year, right? Every year you'll earn interest back based on where you buy it. And of course, to me, I think SoFi is probably one of the best ones to use for high yield savings. That's what I use, because they have some of the best interest rates. But the high yield, if you put it in a normal savings account, like you open up a savings account, that's still your primary bank, Chase, running game. They're still running game on us. Okay? So, long story short, we're going to go back to the Clarity Act and wrap this all up. The Clarity Act is something that is going to provide regulation to the crypto realm. And it's something that is a necessity in order for a lot of these things to change and a lot of these things to come into fruition that we want to happen. Okay, like payroll infrastructure, like cross-border settlements, like tokenization of real estate, tokenization of stocks. For all this stuff to really become normalized, the Clarity Act is critical. It is essential. It is a necessity. Some sort of regulation is, like, even if they scratched the whole Clarity Act but came out with some sort of new bill, we need something in place to make the rails. If there's no real knowledge, appreciate you, Tuski. If there's no sort of rails being made, then no institutions will truly hop on board, and a lot of this stuff will fall through the cracks, unfortunately. So we definitely do need the Clarity Act to gain some traction, and for these bankers to start agreeing with these exchangers, and we just gotta figure it out for sure, and meet in the middle somewhere. But I can tell you for sure, off of what I read from this bill right here, and the research that I've done, man, oh man, we were not nowhere near the middle. We weren't near the middle just yet. We were on track of getting fleeced. So yeah, because they were trying to gain knowledge. They were trying to gain access to our cold wallets. Like, what are we talking about? Okay, that defeats the whole point of a cold wallet. We trying to turn a cold wallet hot. Okay, we trying to turn a cold wallet hot, and I can't get with that. So I respect what Brian Armstrong did for the space, as far as, standing up, chest out to those bankers, to the lawmakers, like, no, this isn't going to fly. We got to revisit this. We got to talk about this, because a lot of anticipation has been built up on this. This is years in the making. Like, the Ripple CEO, Brad Garlinghouse, was surprised that this happened. But then when he kind of heard the things, he's like, it does make sense. Like, we do need to meet in the middle somewhere. Okay, but like, we can't, like, the exchangers and the big brains that's pushing this space, they're like, we can't just let our excitement and our wants for this regulation of the crypto realm to overcloud that we just sign any deal, okay? That we just sign any deal, because then, like, we'll just run into more stuff, and later down the line, we trying to make more bills to cover up for something that was written in the old bill, and now that's gonna take 2 years, and now, we got a new president in, now he might not or she might not sign the bill, so now it just gets messy. So it's like, with these years in the making, we need this one shot at the Clarity Act to be the best in the middle for both sides, so that if we do gotta come revisit points, because once things happen, and once we start normalizing, and once we get involved, things are gonna have to change, but it can't be change that's making it so low at the bottom that going higher up is just gonna be like such a drastic thing that it slows down what we're trying to accomplish as far as tokenization of real world assets and investing into these tokens. That can't happen that way. Okay, and these big brains in the crypto realm are doing a good job of not letting years of unclarity and years of being pushed to the back by these banks over excite them to sign a bad deal. Okay, I'm gonna compare this to rappers, and we might actually close up the Clarity Act, because we've been talking about this for about, I don't even know how long, but it's just like this. Like, a lot of rappers will rap independently, and once you finally grow that following, and these labels see that you could become something, that you have the talent, you have the potential, they'll fleece you with a bad deal. And you, as the artist, you're just excited to have a deal that you might not even read the deal. You might just see the deposit you getting first and be with it. Okay, and then later down the road, a lot of rappers and a lot of artists end up in bad negotiating contracts because they were too excited to negotiate, because they were just ready to go. Okay, and that's exactly what didn't happen with the Clarity Act. They weren't like, I finally made it out the bottom and now someone's giving me my big break, so it don't matter what the break look like, we just gonna take it. No. Yeah, they can't do that. Okay? You gotta do it like, okay, I finally got my big break. We're in the right space, but this does not sit right with my spirit of where we brought this space to, and why we brought this space here. The whole point of DeFi was for people to have access to their own funds. The whole point of stablecoins were for people to earn yield on that. So for you to try to take that away so that you could strengthen the banks and strengthen your pockets and strengthen your power over liquidity in the markets is unfair, and we're not going to sign that, but we could revisit and we'll work something out. Now, as far as this revisit could take, there's no telling. You see the markets just dropped right here. It's slowly coming down, all these prices coming down. They're dropping. You see, market cap went down. There's no telling how long these talks could go, especially when we got things like tariffs going on, and then we got Greenland going on, and then we got midterms coming up. There's a lot of things that's going to be happening in 2026. We got the World Cup to make the Congress and lawmakers and the president busy. Okay, it's a lot of things that's going to happen. But right now, Trump's actually in Switzerland with a lot of these, big head in the crypto space. A lot of people don't know this though. Okay, so now we're spinning some game behind knowledge. Okay, and he's out there with, ZBCN's CEO. Okay, Simon. He's out there with him. He's out there with Brad Garlinghouse. This is the first year they're putting this together to where they're going to be talking about these digital assets and grow stronger in that. And Trump put this on the floor as this being America's 250th anniversary. This is something that he put in a while back, and now this weekend is that week, and they're in a neutral spot in Switzerland in Davos. So he's going to be around all these heads. He's going to be hearing straight from these guys like, hey, man, this is what's going on. Because Trump ain't in there with them lawmakers or Congress when Brian Armstrong standing up chest out. He ain't in there. Okay, but now he's going to be in there with a lot of people in this space. And, I don't really, get too political. But as long as we could get the president any president, whoever the president is, to, push this act faster, then we could finally see some clarity perhaps. And if we could see some clarity, then we could finally move forward in what we're trying to accomplish as far as crypto as a whole, as far as tokenized assets, tokenized real world assets, okay? And as far as stablecoin yield. These are important things for not only, these exchanges, but it's important things for you and me, okay? So let's keep that in mind. Let's dwell on that. Let's just pray about all of this, and let's see where, our spirits align us to go to moving forward, okay? Because we can't control it. I'm just the guy that's on stream telling you about it. I'm not a lawmaker. You know what I mean? I don't draft the bills, draft the acts. I didn't even want to really read this one. I got halfway through and was like, all right, I'm not going to be able to read enough by the time I got to stream. I'll still probably try to read more of it, though, for sure, just to make sure I don't miss out on nothing that might be between the lines. But, yeah, man, so that's pretty much the Clarity Act all wrapped up. And the bottom line of it is that, the Clarity Act being delayed does not mean that the Clarity Act's over. And the Clarity Act, there's no agreement, okay? It just means that there's things that need to be worked out. And the things that need to be worked out were all the things that that is in our favor, okay? So, to me, if the Clarity Act was signed, we would have seen a good crypto run-up. Bitcoin would have probably ran past 100K, yada, 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 if everything went as planned. But they would have been signing a bad bill that would have put us in a tough spot down the road, made it bearish. And you don't want short-term dopamine in this. You want patience. You want clarity. Okay. You really want what's best for the space. If you're an investor in the space and looking long-term, the Clarity Act that was about to be signed just wasn't the best one to be signed. There's a better Clarity Act out there. I know there is, and there has to be in order to move forward. So with that all being said, we're going to wrap up the talk about Clarity Act, okay? And we're going to just go right into the chart work, okay? So for people that's in the live, I appreciate you. For people that may have come to the video after the live, I appreciate you as well. But we're going to just talk about, how I set up my charts for the week for day trading, okay? Because I day trade throughout the week, Monday through Fridays. Well, it's not tomorrow. Tomorrow's Martin Luther King Day. Long live Mr. King. Okay, but I like to day trade, and I just set my charts up and execute. Okay, so we're gonna talk about all of that as well in this live because that's something that I really feel led to do, and we'll just get right to it. Okay, so first thing first, like when it comes to day trading and when it comes to trading in general and when it comes to chart analysis, it's always very important to make sure that we are marking our levels clear and precise as possible. Like Coach is Chris Sane, okay? If you don't follow him, I suggest you subscribe to his YouTube and you be on the move. Look out for him because he teaches the game well. He's a professional. He's a pro trader, okay? But he says you got to get down to the cents of this, okay? Like these cents we see on this screen right here, this 691.41, this 688.35. I'm getting down to the cent. I'm not leaving no penny out. So we're going to see that as we start marking our boxes and marking our charts, getting prepared for this upcoming week of trading, where we just ask the Lord for discipline, and we ask the Lord to steward our trades every single day. Like, I don't trade without my gospel plan, because when you're sitting here watching price action and you're sitting here watching the moves and you're sitting here watching the formation form, you'll be willing to jump the gun because of the money, because you don't have patience, because you don't want to wait. And during those times, you got to have something else there. And I just like to have the Holy Spirit there with me. So that's what I do. Shout out to my boy Reg, because he do trading with Jesus. So if you don't know, if you go ahead and sub to his YouTube, Chosen One Reggie, he trades every morning, and he's breaking down the Bible as he's waiting for a trade to come. And I tune into those. I listen to my gospel. I pray. I do all those sorts of things. So that's a very important factor to have in trading. You got to have some sort of mellow out, or else you'll be jumping the gun until you could grow that level of discipline. Okay. So we're just going to get right into marking the charts, okay? So before we get into that, I'm going to just break down. Let me move my camera. Let me move my camera so that we could all see what's going on here, right? All right, perfect. All right. So I always start from my higher time frames, and I come down to my lower time frames. The reason why I do so is because I like to watch my levels come into fruition. So I like to mark them on the big chart, and I like to see price respect what I marked as I go down to the week chart, as I go down to the day chart, as I go down to the 4-hour chart, as I go down to the 1-hour chart. And then as I'm trading intraday, as I'm on these levels right here, this 15, this 5 minute, this 3 minute, this 1 minute, I like to make sure that, price respects the levels that I'm putting out, okay? That's how I know I'm on one accord with what I'm doing. Okay, so first thing first, we come to the month. We're going to start at the highest time frame. And when we're setting our chart for the week, we just like to start at the month. No reason to start at the year. The year just started, so the year right now is the same as this current month, okay? And I won't look at this current month candle just yet, okay? I'm going to look at this previous month candle, okay? So first thing first, I like to mark out the previous month's resistance and support. Now, for those that are maybe beginning and those who may not really know what's going on, resistance and support is basically, support is the bottom of the floor right here. So where price comes down to, so let's mark up. Price is coming down, but it bounces up, okay? This down here is support. Resistance, okay, is up here. This is resistance, where it's coming to hit the ceiling. So we got support, boom, boom, boom. I like to mark my support, the floor, and then I'll mark resistance, the top, okay? So there, let's go ahead and erase all that. I gotta get better at erasing. All right. So now we're gonna start marking our resistance and our support. And first thing first, we're gonna do the previous month. So we're gonna go off December, okay? So I like to draw a box out right here, and I like to go ahead and do this. Boom. Mark out that box. So we're going from the close of this candle, this month candle of December, and we're gonna go down to the wick of it. So the lowest that it hit, okay? And then we'll do the same thing for the support. We'll do the same thing for the resistance. We'll come up on that wick, boom, boom. And remember what I said. We like to get exact numerical numbers on these. Exact numerical numbers, okay? So, boom. We're going to come look right here. So, first thing first, I'm going to hover over this candle, and as you see, I'm pointing at the screen. I'm gonna hover over this candle, and as you see, we got the highs and lows up there, okay? We got the highs and lows, so we're going to make this the exact numbers that it needs to be right fast. So I'll click right here, boom. We'll get this up. I'll hover over. So price 1 is going to be the close. So we're gonna go look for C. Let me see. Let me double check. Line that up. All right. So the close right here. So the bottom, the number 1 price bar is actually gonna be our open on this candle. So that's gonna be 678.81. So we're gonna change that to 1 because we need exact levels. And the second one is gonna be the lowest of this candle. So that L. 671.20, so we're about 16 cents off there. Boom. All right, now we got exact levels. And then we'll come do the same thing here. All right, we'll come do the same thing here. We're gonna mark our charts out the same way. Boom. So we're gonna get this. So now that box 1 right here is gonna be the closed candle. So it looks like, what's that? 681.92. So we a little off there. So we're gonna hit 681.92. Boom. And then this is going to be the high. So the high was what? 691.66. So we'll change that 42 to a 66. And you see the box moves. Boom. That means we locked in. We got our prices ready, okay? So we're going to drag this out just a little bit. Make sure we get that out. Drag that out. Make it even. I like to keep my charts nice and clean. And then we're going to just pretty much just put a text of what this is. So we're going to say December resistance. Okay. Okay, then we're going to go December support. And that's pretty much it for the monthly chart. That's how we do it. That's how we mark up our month. That's all we got to do for the month. So as we finish the month, we go down to the week now. Now we got the week. So now I like to do the previous week. Same thing. I'm going to come to this previous week and I'm going to mark out the support and the resistance. On these boxes, I like to use a different color because I like to color code my stuff so that it don't look like crazy. Everything looking the same, okay? So for this one, we're going to use orange. We'll change the color to orange on this, okay? Boom. I'm going to do the same thing here on this candle. All right. So we're going to mark that. We're going to mark support. We're going to mark resistance. All right. And then we're going to get exact levels now. So we'll start with support. We'll drag this over just a little bit so that we can see. Dang, let me move myself again. All right, we're going to move myself right here. Boom. All right, cool. We should be good now. I'm going to move myself right there, all right? So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to look at this right here. We're going to fix these numbers up. So we're going to get the open for price 1 right here. You see it's at the O at the top left right here where the price is above me, right above me. So you see I'm pointing right here. The O is right there. Boom. So we're going to do the 690, 68. So I was at 56. That's why it's important. We just going to always get exact numbers. We got to be precise. I ain't leaving it on the flow. And then it goes to 04. So not 32, 04. Okay? And we want to see how price is going to be respecting our levels throughout this week. And then we're going to trade to our levels. These levels are essential. Like this is how we know where to take contracts to, where to take our plays to, when to enter plays, where price may reverse. I'm trying to tell you, this is hidden gems right here, okay? So then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to mark the close here. So right above me, right there, boom. You see we're a little bit off. We're going to change that 96 to a 66. Perfect. Boom. Price number 2. All right, that's the high. So we're going to change that from 29, okay, to 09. Okay. Boom. And that 696.09 is all-time highs right there, okay? That's all-time highs. Boom. So now we already got our monthly for the previous month support and resistance drawn out. And we already got our previous week candle support and resistance drawn out with exact numbers, critical numbers, okay? And then we're going to mark it. We're going to label it, okay? Previous week support, all right? And we'll go up here. Previous week resistance, all right? Cool. Now we'll come to the day chart, all right? And we'll see, we'll want to notice how kind of price is respecting our levels right here. Boom. So you see on this day, on Wednesday, January 14th, it came right down to the low of the previous week candle, and it shot right back up. After that, we gapped up, boom, 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 boom. So when we're on this day chart, we like to look for gaps. We want to see any trends. One, of course, like I just said, we want to make sure that, you know, price is respecting what we already drawn. All right. And then we want to also make sure that we see any trends. So I like to look for any gap ups. I like to mark any handoffs that could have happened. I like to mark any sort of momentum switch that could have happened. You see down here, it touched this EMA, and that's where we hit that reversal. This was way back in November. So I like to come look at my daily chart, see if I see anything that stands out, perhaps. And I really don't see too much, okay? I see just price respecting EMAs. You see kind of coming out the zone, but the EMA is right under these zones, making it bounce back up, and then we finally got it closed. And I don't really see too much on these, okay? So then I'll come down to the 4-hour chart, and we'll do the same thing. We want to see, hey, is there any gap ups? Is there anything like here? So right here, boom, I see a nice little gap zone, boom. So then I'm going to come mark that right there. So we're going to start at the wick of this, take it to the wick of this candle, okay? Boom. Now I see a gap zone, okay? And it looks like last week, price hit that gap, trying to break resistance into that gap, and it didn't. Okay, it didn't. So with that being said, of course, you know the rules, clean charts, like Coach say. We're gonna go ahead, clean that up, make a white box for daily gaps, and we're gonna call this 4-hour, $4-hour gap zone. Okay, and then I'll hit return, and I'll look at the days. I'll mark the days. This was Friday, this was Jan 2nd. So we'll put Jan 2 through, what is that, the 5th? Jan 5th, gap. So if I got to come back and go look at price action that day, cool, I'll go do that. All right, and then of course we want to get exact levels. Exact levels. We don't play no games. It's exact levels only. So we're going to come right here, and we're going from wick to wick, remember? So we're going from this wick here to that wick here because there is no price in there. So we're going to explain what the gap is right now. So before we do that, let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to say high, 683.95. Change that to a 5. All right, and the low of this candle was 686.38. We were close. 38. Cool, perfect. Okay, now we in there perfectly. All right. So now, basically how we were able to spark that gap zone is you see price gapped up here, boom, and there's no price being traded here. So that means there's no money in between since we gapped up this random day. All right, let's look at another gap right here. You see this gap right here, boom. Let's go ahead and draw this out. We're not going to go exact because we're going to, boom. Look, price ran up, hit resistance, came back down to fill the gap. Price will always, 98% of the time, fill the gap. Don't quote me on the percentages, but from what I see, 98%. It's going to fill the gap. As you see, hold on, let me bring that back real quick. As you see, we got this gap right here. This gapped up from the 19th through the 22nd. Traded a full little week. Okay, cool. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Boom. Wednesday of next week, we bared down, got under EMAs, retested, and we filled this gap. And then we gapped up again after that, okay? So now we're going to be waiting for price to fill the gap. So I'm already going to be ready for the day that price gets under these EMAs and into this week's support to hop in a trade and take the trade down to the gap zone. Okay? And I did that twice last week, right around here, because it's the same gap zone. I did it twice last week, and I got out right at this orange line right here, and price reversed. Okay? So I've made a good amount of money on those trades because my levels were marked. A lot of people just trade in price and we don't even have our charts marked out and we don't even know where buyers is at, sellers is at, price is reversing. Okay, so this is all important stuff right there. So you see we got a gap zone right there, gap already filled. We don't need to mark that again because gap's already filled. Now we got a gap right here. We need the gap to fill. So we're just going to be patient. We're going to wait. We're not going to bet that the price is going to get filled. We're going to wait for it to get filled. Simple as that. We're going to wait for confirmation. We're going to wait for it to get below EMAs. We're going to wait for it to break into this orange box right here of previous week support. We're going to wait for price to get in there. And then we're going to take the trade and we're going to execute. Okay? It's just like that. And let's look at even more gaps. So this is a good example real quick of a gap that's closed. That's almost not a gap. This is a small gap, but it's a gap, okay? And you see price still came on this 4-hour gap right here and refilled it. Okay, so it gapped up on the 25th of November to the 26th, traded all the beginning of December, lost it, and filled the gap. Price will come fill the gap. It will come fill the gap, okay? So I want to find one. Look, right here again. There's so many gaps on this chart, man. There's so many gaps. And then once you start catching stuff like this, look at that. That's a great, perfect gap. This was a quick fill right here. A quick fill. Boom. That's another gap. Right there. Boom. Good fill. Gap right here. Look at all these gaps all right here. A gap right here. Boom. Spread that out. Fill. Gap right here. Boom. Spread that out. Fill. You see what I'm saying? These are all gaps right here. So what wouldn't make these a gap? So let's go back to this small gap. If the price was able to not have a space right here, so there was price that was moved, that's not a gap. Okay? So like right here, there's no gaps here because these candles are right next to each other. Even right here. Let's zoom in right here. This is the perfect example. So you might be like, wait, is this a gap right here, Trey? Is this a gap right here? Nah, this is not a gap because look, this wick connects with this wick, so there's no box to make, okay? This is a small little gap from right here to right here. So this is like another little gap we could potentially mark out right there. But look, there's no point in marking this one out because price already filled it, okay? Price already filled that gap. So, I mean, I could potentially mark it, but I don't really need to mark that one because price is there now in that gap, plus all my support and resistance is right there. I like to find the unfilled gaps because I know price going to try to come back and fill it. And as price kind of fills this gap, I'm going to make a chart analysis here. I'm not going to guess, but I'm going to make a chart analysis here that price is going to try to fill this gap as my 100 EMA gets closer to this gap so that price could also fill this gap but test the EMA at the same time. So as price fills the gap zone, is going to try to retest the EMA. So we might have a couple days of nice little choppiness so that this EMA could catch up to the gap, and then we fill gap, and then we smack EMA, and then if we break EMA, we come back down into this December support, and we got all this range down here to be putting shorts and puts in, or it smacks EMA and we run up and we retest all-time highs. Either way, we have a theory for both ways based off chart work. We're not guessing, we're not gambling, we're not overstimulating ourselves with that. We acknowledging both sides of the tail, and we're gonna wait patiently and react to it. Okay, so that's the 4-hour chart. We look for any sort of trends too. Like you see right here, this is also like a good little momentum switch right here. So boom, you could draw like a little horizontal line right here. You know what I mean? Because there was a good momentum switch. Like, remember the handoffs we talk about? This is a 4-hour handoff right here. So at this point, the momentum change. Okay, so we got the Bears was in control, and then this next one, price, they came right in and buyers stepped in, and guess what? We gapped up after that. So this is a good handoff zone. We could also mark that as a 4-hour handoff zone. So for the sake of this this video, I'll for sure mark that as a handoff zone as well. Okay, so we're gonna mark a 4-hour handoff zone here, so that way when price is coming to fill that gap, we know that, you know, there was a nice little reversal over here at this price. Okay, 4-hour handoff. Okay, and I'll hit my enter, and then we're gonna get the date. So this was the same day, Jan 14th. So it's a little 4-hour handoff right there. From the first 4 hours of the market on Wednesday, we were bears. For the last 4 hours of the market, bears handed the momentum off to the buyers, and we ran up. So now when I'm expecting the gap to be filled, I know price right here at this 687 range is going to be a critical level. So now I got that in mind as I'm in my trades, okay? So that's also stuff to look out for too, okay? So now we'll take it down to the 1-hour chart. I personally don't look at the 2-hour, 3-hour chart. I'll go straight down the 1-hour chart. And like I said, we like to make sure that our charts are lining up with what we're talking about, and we like to make sure that, you know, it's just multi-time frame confluence. You know what I mean? Make sure everything aligns. And look right here. Now because when you come down into the smaller and smaller and smaller, you're starting to see the seeds you planted based off these higher time frames, you know, take their toll and make a better understanding. So now that 4-hour gap zone we marked, we see exactly when it happened. It happened right here on Friday to right here, boom. And then we see price respecting, you know, and that's what I like to see. I like to see how price is moving with these EMAs. I got my 8, I got my 21, I got my 100. We'll break down EMAs, exponential moving average. So it's kind of showing you the average of these candles. And this 8-1 is more of emotion. So the yellow line, we're seeing how market emotion is. Anytime price comes above that emotion, you see we kind of come down on this hour chart. Once we could break down and ride emotion up, price is going up. Okay, and that's what it is. The 100 EMA is structure. So like if price was trading what the markets would expect at structure, this is that line right here, moving right here. So when price meets structure, we react. We got to see that 100 EMA always brings some sort of bounce. It always does, you know what I mean? It always does. That's why I'm real big on, like, when we go to that 4-hour chart again, I'm real big on seeing what happens when price do hit this. So like right here, you see price smacked right here, and it kind of went up, didn't close. And then right here to end the day, it got under that EMA and made the lowest. So then it's like, wait, it's under the EMA. Why didn't it keep going up? So then, what day was this? Wednesday, December 27th. Now, let's go to our day chart and let's see what was really happening on the 27th. Okay, boom. That formed December support. That was the day that December support was made on that 100 EMA on the 4-hour chart. You see how all your time, your intervals start lining up. That's how, like, to me at least, in my sort of thinking, this is how I know I'm on the right track. Okay, this is how I know, like, my chart work is accurate. And you know, this came a long way too, because I mean, I wasn't marking nothing. I was straight raw dogging the trades. I was just hopping in, nothing, no support drawn out, no resistance drawn out. I just trying to momentum trade, no cap. I was trying to momentum trade. I'd be on the minute chart trying to get in, get out, based on momentum. Get hit with a reversal at a critical level because I ain't know the gap zone was there. Beam, got me up out of there because I ain't patient. Okay. So it's pretty cool seeing it all coming to fruition nowadays. And like, remember, this is the other gap zone we were marking up. Boom, with a good little gap zone, came down, filled gap, ran up. So if you ask me, it probably come down, fill gap, touch that 100 EMA, and probably just run back up, retest all-time highs up here. All right, in order to break all-time highs, we'll get to see 700. And you see it's smacking this level and it's coming down. It's because buyers ain't giving more momentum to go to new heights, right? We need news. We need good market enthusiasm to go to new heights, okay? So that's pretty much how I mark my charts. And now, like, I look at it, I'm ready for the week, right? Even though we don't trade tomorrow, then I like to come to my 15-minute chart and I like to see, like, okay, cool. Let's see how it looks. Now let's see how price is respecting everything. Look, gap up on a 15-minute chart, okay. Hit that 4-hour handoff zone already previously before. Ran back up, boom, 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 boom. Came to that 4-hour hand zone. Guess what? Handoff again, boom, 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 boom. Guess what? Broke the 4-hour hand zone, tried to get into the 4-hour gap zone, but it hit that previous week support. That's where that week support was made. Boom, 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 ran back up, little 15-minute gap. I'm not gonna mark a 15-minute gap because I don't need to. Plus, it already filled. Boom, 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 boom. Now we just wait to see what happens. It could gap down, it could gap up, it could open right out here, and we see what happens. But I'm ready for the week, whatever it may brings. I got myself lined up. Look at the 5-minute charts. Everything is like the same way. We look and see. And it just kind of it really puts you at ease. And this is like a step in making sure that you're ready for the week. This is an every Sunday thing that I do. On Sundays, I get ready for the week. I get ready to see what price is going to bring for me. And I like to mark my charts out so that I can enter the trades with the highest probability of winning. Okay, with the highest probability of winning. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that I got to this point in life to where I could be able to not only mark my charts and be able to have the patience to do that, but also be able to even teach it. Like I'm sitting here telling you how to mark your chart. 6 months ago, I was like trying to mark my charts. Like I had the system down. I had just barely this previous week support, and I just barely have monthly support and monthly resistance. And now I'm here and I'm profitable because I'm marking my charts. I got a great system in place, and it's just looking upside. And I got God in the forefront of it all. That's the key part. A lot of us are missing that part of the whole equation, is that we don't have the faith. We don't have God leading the vision. You know what I mean? Like, if you get introduced into trading, it's because you're supposed to. If you get introduced into investing and you end up getting the mind to want to invest, it's because you're supposed to invest. Okay? There's something out there that aligns with your purpose, that investing might be it, that investing might open the door for it, that trading might give you the capital to pursue that purpose, or the things you learn as you're trading teaches you for what you have to do in your purpose. Okay, but you can't get to that purpose when trading and investing if you do not have God at the forefront of it, if you do not have faith in Jesus in that. Okay, like I said, when I'm trading, I got Jesus in the membrane after rip. I got the Bible right here, always on the side right here. I got my gospel music playing. As soon as I start not trading, like I'm waiting on price action, I'm worshiping, I'm praising, I'm praying, I'm watching charts. So I don't feel greed. I don't feel impatience. I just wait for my setup. I don't rush in when I don't have a retest. I wait for that because I have God on the side of all of it, leading the vision, leading the forefront. So, with all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this stream. I'm going to wrap up this live. And I pray that something was said to help you gain knowledge. Something was said to make you want to invest. Something was said that you learned to mark your charts up and learn how to start investing that way, okay? And learning the art of trading, because trading is like level 7 of investing. Like, you shouldn't just jump into trading if you don't understand how the market works. If you don't understand how the market works, you don't know what resistance and support is, okay? And I jumped in when I had just finally learned about, I was already probably on level 4, but I still jumped to level 7. I knew about ETS, I knew about buying power, I knew about buying and sellers. I knew about that stuff, but I wasn't right where I needed to be. I wasn't grounded in the right spot. And sometimes that's how God uses you. God will bring you through the lowest points of the lowest just so that he could bring you out of it, and now you're ready to soar. Okay? So I pray that something was put in this live video that brings you to God first and foremost, brings your faith up in him, lets you have him orchestrate the vision, let him show you the purpose, okay? And I also pray that there was something that intrigued you, that was insightful for you, that was engaging to you, to want to invest, to want to go down this world, to want to go down this realm, and want to grow as an individual, and want to grow as somebody for, breaking that generational curse, okay? And I'm gonna just pray us out the stream, and then I'm gonna wrap this up, and then we're gonna be back next Sunday. Every Sunday we're gonna be streaming, okay? Every Sunday we're gonna stream unless I'm out of town somewhere. Every Sunday is gonna be a stream, and it's gonna be different topics, different things, led by the Lord, okay? So I'm gonna pray us out, and then I'll pray that everybody have a good night, all right? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, and do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Hallelujah. So, great job. Always very informative. Appreciate it, appreciate it, appreciate it. Yes, God. So, like I said, we're going to wrap this up. Clarity Act. I hope I was able to provide some clarity on the Clarity Act being delayed and whatnot. And I pray that there was some good insight to my viewers, my fam that's viewing, and for people that may come across this live later on as it's marinated on the YouTube channel, all right? So, everybody have a blessed night. Stay blessed. And my name is Trey, the one that Jesus loves, and the founder and the creator of the Trader Boys brand. Y'all have a good one.